Good evening, and welcome to the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, TATT's ICT Open Forum. I am your host, Wendell Etienne. This evening, our panel will engage a discussion on cybersecurity and threats, trends, and countermeasures. We have a very qualified panel assembled for the discussion, but before I introduce the panel to you, let's first hear from TATT's CEO, Mrs. Cynthia Reddock Downs.
Good evening to the viewing and listening audience. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago's 33rd ICT Open Forum titled Cybersecurity and Threats, Trends, and Countermeasures. As you are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we do business in Trinidad and Tobago. We have had to place increased reliance on the internet and digital solutions to carry out routine tasks in our personal and professional lives. To us at the authority, this is a positive development as more and more of our population uses the technology available as part of their daily lives. In pre-COVID-19 times, those of us accessing insurance, banking, and government services online may have done so by choice. However, today, many of these services are accessible only online. While the availability of these services has brought increased efficiencies, there are inherent dangers. The authority, in its role of promoting equitable access to information by all citizens, is keenly aware of the need to ensure that the valuable, and versatile tool which the internet has become can be used by our citizens and residents safely. As such, the authority has engaged in several consumer education initiatives to guide consumers of telecommunication services on how to protect themselves online. It's noteworthy that the authority is a strategic partner and executing agency for TATT Wi-Fi, which is an initiative of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to provide free Wi-Fi access to and utilization of the internet by all citizens and residents of Trinidad and Tobago when accessing government services. It is part of the vision outlined in the National ICT Plan 2018 to 2022 to provide free and easy access to broadband internet in public spaces. To date, TATT Wi-Fi can be accessed at 9 transport hubs, 16 libraries, and 25 primary schools located throughout Trinidad and Tobago. In rolling out this initiative, we have sought to ensure that the TATT Wi-Fi services are equipped with facilities to assist with the protection of users from cybersecurity incidents. Similarly, for organizations, the necessary physical distancing protocols have required a continued focus on remote work and virtual activities. Sadly, there are potential vulnerabilities related to remote work that can present IT security challenges. Network-attached personal computers and printers could be exploited by cyber criminals targeting workers' credentials through essential office tools and software. Additionally, the employee's personal information may also be targeted for further cyber attacks. This means that both the worker and the company can find themselves at risk for disruptions, financial loss, data compromise, and reputational harm. We can reasonably predict that cyber criminals will seek to take advantage of an opportunity to benefit from our increased dependence on technology and the use of the internet. At our last ICT Open Forum, held in April 2021, we explored the topic of protecting our children online as part of our IT skills outreach program. Tonight's discussion will be of interest to every person and every organization that utilizes the internet. Our three panelists discuss the current status of cybersecurity in Trinidad and Tobago, the threats posed by cybercriminals, and protective measures that can be implemented by individuals, households, and organizations. I encourage you to use the opportunity presented this evening to learn how or to reinforce what you already know about how to protect yourselves, your children, and your organization when online. In closing, I thank our panelists, Inspector Daniel Hernandez, Mr. Angus Smith, and Mr. Charles Bob Sentley, for graciously accepting the authority's invitation to share their knowledge and experiences with us tonight. I also thank Mr. Wendell Etienne for agreeing to employ his communications and media skills as the moderator of this forum. And to you, the audience, I say, do enjoy tonight's proceedings. Thank you and have a good night.
And thank you, Mrs. Cynthia Reddock-Downs, CEO of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, my friends, the stage is set for a very engaging discussion. As we've indicated before, we have quite a panel in front of us. Let's meet our panelists. We'll begin with Mr. Angus Smith. He's the head of the Trinidad and Tobago Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, TATT, for the past 6 years. He has been involved in cybersecurity for 9 years, ICT for 20 years, and security management for 26 years. Angus has been instrumental in the development of the National Cybersecurity Program for Trinidad and Tobago, implemented the Trinidad and Tobago Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, TTC-CERT, which is the National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, ttccert.gov.tt. He's involved in a number of national digital transformation projects focusing on the cybersecurity elements of these projects and is a member of the National ICT Steering Committee. Mr. Smith is the holder of a BSc in Computer Science and MSc in Strategic Leadership and Management. Welcome, Angus.
Thank you.
Our second panelist, he is positively impacting the lives of persons, and that's his passion, and building performing teams with a common vision is his calling. This is the ethos of Mr. Charles Bob Semple, CEO of the National Information and Communication Company Limited, IGOV-TT of Trinidad and Tobago. Charles is an accomplished, results-driven professional with notable success leading a broad range of enterprise ICT system covering the ICT gamut throughout his distinguished career. He is a certified project management professional with more than 2 decades of ICT experience with qualifications of an MBA and MSc in computer science. He is also the founder of Fusion, the largest adventure race in the region, which has lived up to the tagline, "When you cross the finish line, you will know more about yourself." So his 2 loves are athletics and technology, and we are absolutely happy to have him with us. Welcome, Charles.
Pleasure.
Rounding off our panel, my friends, we have Inspector Daniel Hernandez. Mr. Daniel Hernandez, he has been serving the TTPS for well over 22 years in the business of cybersecurity. He holds a master's degree in business administration, specializing in digital technology, from the University of Bedfordshire, England, where he gained knowledge to lead and transform the Cyber and Social Media Unit, formerly the Cybercrime Unit. Inspector Hernandez was appointed head of the Cyber and Social Media Unit, CSMU, in October of 2019, and has built public awareness of cybercrime through his lectures within the TTPS at schools and within the business community. Welcome, Inspector Hernandez. I'll call you Daniel this evening.
Yes, no problem.
So, we have introduced the panel. I would allow each of our panelists to offer some opening remarks. Angus, you're closest to me, so take it away.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Wendell, and good evening. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. I just want to say that cybersecurity in the context of the individual, the company, Trinidad and Tobago, is fraught with a number of risk, threats, issues. A lot of them, it becomes a based on the awareness of the individual, to take advantage of the knowledge that they could possess, the information that is there, to actually correct their situation or to at least address the situation so that they could have a safe experience online. That is something that is an ongoing quest for us to help citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to reach a level that we could say that we are cyber safe. And that is really the goal of what the TTC CERT would like to achieve within having a safe and secure cyber Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much. Charles?
Hi, Wendell. Pleasure to be here. So at iGovTT, we are responsible for the implementation of enterprise services and advisory as well. Now, one of the things we are working, because our parent ministry is the Ministry of Digital Transformation, and it's critical for us to really advance the country digitally, because as the CEO of TATT shared, persons would like to consume services and so on without the need of going inline. So we need to move from inline to online. But in transforming things digitally, we are making technology available online, of course. And with that, we introduce certain vulnerabilities. In any system, there are vulnerabilities that can be exploited. And so what iGovTT does, we use TTC CERT, Angus and his team, to perform their pen testing and assertions of policies and so on are required, so that we could minimize or eliminate the possible threats of enterprise solutions, such as advanced penetration threats, where persons, when they get into a system, they remain over a long duration and extracting a lot of information. Then you have denial of service, where they will send a lot of information to a system, flooding it with traffic, so that the true service that persons want is not possible. And then you have distributed denial of service, which is an even larger scale of that. And that's what I've mentioned on a personal level, some of the things that we persons need to be aware of. In terms of malware, sometimes we open attachments that we shouldn't, and within it there are Trojan horses and so on to cause damage. Then there's phishing, where you have an email, you click on it, and okay, here, click on this for 5 million euros. Click on it, and we bring in problems. But I think a common one, and I would like for us to be real cognizant about that, is our password levels. Sometimes we put simple passwords. My password is Charles. And what a hacker will do, they could get into your system by doing a number of permutations on all alphas. So some of the things to do with that part is more or less on the alphanumeric side. So we at iGovTT, on the implementation side with the Ministry of Digital Transformation for enterprise services, we do understand all the risk involved, and we take mitigating measures beforehand, both internally and the use of TTC CERT.
Thank you. Inspector Hernandez. Daniel.
It's indeed a pleasure to be here. Just jumping off from what my two colleagues on the panel is discussing with their introductions. Within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Cyber and Social Media Unit has direct responsibility to assist investigations where crimes involve the use and misuse of internet and communication technologies. So we jump off from the place where, from after they come through, they say malware, the Trojans and whatnot, we are the ones coming to investigate from on that level. This will consist of varying offenses that can fall under the remit of cybercrime offenses. Along with this responsibility is to also inform and educate the wider population as to what threats and trends we see that can be classed under the wide arc of cybersecurity and cybercrimes, and to hopefully offer countermeasures to help mitigate and prevent persons from becoming victims of cybercrime. Although the average person may not see cybersecurity and cybercrime as their particular responsibility, but from the law enforcement side and our perspective, protection against such issues needs to exist at the individual level. One of the reasons has ultimately to do with the severe effects of COVID, and as we are well aware, because of our change as it relates to face-to-face communications, you find we are enjoying that ability to have those communications, not knowing of the threats that are available with opening up yourself. And COVID has brought that, where we have to interact online. And inside of that is where the issues lie. Unfortunately, this also means that criminal activity inevitably followed the online migration, resulting in increased instances of cyber criminal activity that we in law enforcement have to detect and deal with. During the course of today, you will hear from all of us, including my colleagues here and myself, about several things of this nature, with examples of activities and some solutions at personal and professional levels for dealing with cybercrime and cybersecurity.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I must point out that this evening's session is by no means intended to scare anyone. we can't escape the era that we are now living in. But what we need to do is to identify, and you said it, Daniel, you raised the point of responsibility. Let's begin there. What are we responsible for? Maybe I could toss that your way, Angus.
So, as the head of the Trinidad and Tobago TTC suit, we are responsible to provide an avenue for government to respond to cyber incidents for government, ministries, agencies. So in the event of a cyber attack or a cyber incident, we are to provide that first level response to help them recover their services and ensure that they could function. So that is a key role that we play in the first instance. We also actually add value in the context of reactive and proactive services. As my colleague here, Charles, said, we provide vulnerability testing services, we do assessments, we provide that level of service so that any government system to be deployed, we will actually have to provide some type of assessment, be it a payment system, be it an application. We will also provide that type of service to them so that they ensure that there are acceptable levels of security requirements or levels within the application. We actually also have some outreach programs that we do. We try to provide training, awareness. We actually have a program that we embarked upon with schools to encourage youths to participate in cybersecurity. We try that. Those are some of the activities that we participate in. But primarily it's about incident response, incident management, risk assessments. Those are some of the things that we would provide as core functionalities.
As we would all have acknowledged, this current environment has placed a considerable number of young people. We were now forced, and I honestly believe we were heading there anyway, but now placing devices in their hands. Do we think that we understand the concept of data generation? What do we have to be responsible for? And I'm tossing this at you, Charles. From that level, from the consumer level, be it the school children, the adults, the young adults, do we understand that concept of data generation?
Yeah, well, data is really the assembly of facts and analysis that we can utilize to create some decision about, right, information. Now, while this is important for an individual, so say for instance, someone, they perform a lot of online purchases. So they'll want to understand, okay, how much purchases am I doing from Amazon? Or how much payments have I made to this bank or this institution? The data is there. And while that data is important, the information is important to you, is also important to someone else who would like to capture that to probably impersonate or benefit from it. Now, at the enterprise level, and that's what I've mentioned, vulnerability and risk assessments, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has entered into an arrangement with the United Kingdom to perform a national cyber risk assessment so that we can ascertain all of the vulnerable points, whether infrastructure and so on, and adjust and the policy aspects as strategy to deal with them accordingly. At the level below that, right, in terms of the individual, Some of the things that we need to do and continue to do is awareness. A lot of persons are not aware of the threats. So, for instance, the students who will get devices from government, they get the devices, but the devices specialize in terms of this is the limitation of what could be done. But for devices and so on, as a personal level, and things that I can access, what we need to do, and this is where all of us responsible really, is in terms of the awareness of the public, so that they understand the dangers involved in phishing, and now they exercise an individual responsibility not to click on links that they ought not to enforce and strengthen their passwords by ensuring that alphanumeric, one capitalized, lowercase, and so on. So there are responsibilities on several layers in terms of what I mentioned on the ecosystem on the government side, and things are in place with that. We are educating as well in terms of awareness. But I think the onus and responsibility at the end of the day as well is on all of us, Wendell, to do what is quote unquote right, what we know we should do. And sometimes it's like, it's so much easier to remember a password called Charles, but the danger is imminent. And I think the responsibility is on both sides.
I think as the consumer, I just want to have access.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I be bogged down with this thought of there's someone out there gathering my information? Why isn't my provider protecting me? Those are some of the natural inclinations of consumers.
Mm-hmm.
I pay for a service. I access the service I paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're telling me that there's dangers?
Mm-hmm.
Are there really dangers, Daniel? What are some of the dangers?
Well, first you have to take it from the aspect of what are you accessing? You are accessing information that helps you live simple, makes it easier. But you know, I always use the analogy where there's light, there's darkness. And when you look at it, you realize the ability to have access comes at a risk, and a personal risk at that. And one of the issues that comes up in terms of persons having that access is things like phishing. And we would have held discussions prior and discussing, and we realized that not many people understand that there are persons who are outside there phishing to get your information, because just like you, they want access. Mm-hmm. But the access they want is to your personal information, and by extension, they want access to your financial transactions and stuff. Now, when you speak about phishing, which is the ability for someone to send you an email, and in that email may have a link, a malware or something that goes into your system, that comes at a great cost, not only to the consumer, but now it goes to the company and all, because there is a breach on their systems that they are not aware of. And that leads to things like ransomware and some other items which we will discuss down the road. But the theme of today's presentation is cybersecurity, and there is a responsibility on the part of the individual, and then we all can enjoy this great thing called access.
Yes.
Now, I like that point you're drawing here in terms of access and common access. We often find where you use a search engine, and then a couple hours later, everything related to your search, which you did not search for, it's now trying to grab your attention.
Yes.
Is that classified as a vulnerability? Did we give access for that type of information sharing?
It may not be classified as a vulnerability. At the end of the day, using the internet makes you liable. There's a service you're accessing. Companies out there, because at the end of the day, information is the most valuable resource, and you have to understand that. And if we understand what that is, we'll understand why it is these things are happening. Companies like Amazon, companies like Google, they make money off of your information, getting metrics, getting particulars, selling their advertising for products. At the end of the day, that is what you buy into when you subscribe to using their browser, using the service. that puts you, yes, at what you would call a vulnerable state, but is just par for the course, which is why you need to protect your information, especially what you put out there. Usernames, your passwords, ensuring that the information that you put there concerning your preferences, your likes, whatever you have to be mindful. Somebody is going to use this information to actually sell it, to either generate income for themselves, or to sell it for somebody else to particular enable a service or to provide that for someone. So it's not a vulnerability. So yes, you may feel vulnerable, but it's something you have to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, is commerce. It is the way the world works. So we have to be having that thought in our heads that we are just part of the system.
Charles, your thoughts?
No, I share Anders's view. It's really machine learning that is under it all, and it is the reason they want it is to attract you to get more services. And you'll observe the same thing with other social media platforms. So you may be in one social media platform, and let's say you're using WhatsApp, and you added a new contact there, then you go to the next social media platform, like, hey, this person could be a friend. What they're really trying to do is, listen, I want to grab your attention. I use bots in my system, and they utilize machine learning. I think I know what you like, and I want to give you an experience to what you like more. And so really and truly it is, I want to progressively elaborate rather than I want to steal your goods and services for my own benefit. So I would distinguish the two as marketing for win-win. So you win, you get something what they win because they sell an next product. But in like the ransomware and so on, with a ransomware after phishing, as Daniel mentioned, there is no win-win. This is give me all the things you have, or I will try to take it by grabbing as much information as I desire for my own benefit. So I'll distinguish the two like that, both of them like that.
Excellent. I just wanted to create and have our viewers understand that there is a safe space.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah?
Correct.
Yes.
Are we at that stage in Trinidad and Tobago where stuff that we have seen in the movies actually happen? Ransomware, someone is going to take my information and maliciously use it against me or wipe it clean.
You know, in some of the lectures I would do, I always try to encourage persons, do not be the ostrich with your head in the sand. Because we are oil producing nation, and that has a benefit, but it also brings a certain amount of issues with it. So I always tell persons we are we are a third world country, but we have first world problems.
True.
So sometimes you talk to persons about ransomware, and they are like, "What are you talking about?" And they are not conscious that they can become a victim of that. Right now, within Trinidad and Tobago, it's on the rise but underreported. So you're hearing it in all the rumors, people are speaking about it. But right now, we have 3 reports that have come in so far within this COVID period. And they came in from 2 regional corporations and one private medical facility.
And this is ransomware.
This is ransomware.
Could you just define it for us? I just want to be absolutely clear that our viewers are on the same page with us.
In terms of what is ransomware?
Yes.
So ransomware is the ability for someone to come into your system and encrypt the data on your device or your system. And when they encrypt the data on your device or system, they lock it with a key. That's what the encryption is. And then they contact you to inform you that if you want to get your data, you have to pay to receive a key to unlock that encryption. And most of the times, they want the payment in something called bitcoins, which we'll possibly talk about later on, which is in some form they are trying not to be traced in order that they would not be captured in what they're doing. Now,
And we have had 3 such reports.
So far, we have had 3 reports, but I want to couch it in such a way that there are much more because people are not coming forward, but you're hearing it within local discussions where, hey, so-and-so happened to me, so-and-so happened to me. There are businesses that don't want to report for failure. They don't want their image to be tarnished in such a way, especially if they're feeling as though customers may move away from their platforms or whatnot. One thing that I try to encourage persons, and it's a recommendation I gave to the private medical hospital, I told them one of the major things that help assist with dealing with ransomware is backups. And you know, sometimes some people don't really understand the power of having a backup as it relates to your information. And in some of my recommendations, I talk about multiple backups. So you have your backup at different locations, so that if your system is compromised, you can revert to that. And the rule, just like kidnapping, we tell them don't pay, is the same rule we give to persons as it relates to ransomware. You don't pay, but if you have a backup, that makes it even much easier. Yeah? Yeah, guys.
What's the business environment like in terms of preparing and safeguarding against that type of activity? Where are we?
In some cases, some companies actually take proactive steps to secure the systems. Now, part of the problem with ransomware and these types of malwares, you would have, they could come in various ways. Most of the times would be through phishing emails, which means your email system, a person, one of your employees most likely, would get an email, click on a link to do something that seems familiar. They would either click on it, that causes the malware to get into your system. Necessarily doesn't mean that it's going to be attacked at the same time. They would do something called, they would sit in your system, wait a while, look around. Once they find the information that they're looking for, then they will now launch the ransomware to now request their payment. That is one of the things that would happen. Now, one of the ways you could help solve that is to promote awareness with your users or your employees, ensuring that they understand emails, be careful with your emails, do not click on any links that are unsolicited links. So an email might come in, you did not subscribe to a service, you did not subscribe to a password change, you did not subscribe to any particular thing, and you would now click the link. If you're not sure about a link that comes in and telling you your password expire, or you need to have access to this particular site, then go to the particular site in question directly. Do not use the link, and then try to verify if you have any doubts. Generally, a lot of people would click the link in the email, and that would cause the ransomware, and that causes a lot of the problems. Again, companies also have to ensure that their systems are secure, meaning that you have networking equipment, routers, switches, access equipment. You need to have that updated. You need to have that to ensure that you are protected. Servers, desktop computers, you need all these devices to be updated to ensure that they're not vulnerable. COVID, something called remote desktop access or VPN access. That has been a problem since with the advent of COVID. People using VPNs to remote in from home so that they could access their workspace. But some of the VPNs have vulnerabilities. We have encountered numerous companies, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, that were vulnerable at points in time because the software the software that they were using has these vulnerabilities in it. Their systems could easily be compromised. Some of them, their username and passwords for access into their systems were actually available on the dark web. So we had a number of cases. So one of the proactive things that we did when we found out that there were vulnerabilities in some of the devices that they were using, we contacted them and told them, look, your system is vulnerable. These are the issues. This is a particular vulnerability in your system. You need to fix it. In Trinidad, we had something like 97 plus companies who were vulnerable. We contacted them all. Look, you need to update the system, get it up and running to ensure that your remote access is actually functioning. So things like that we would do to be proactive in order to help companies and organizations to be more secure. And that happens too with your home system, your home router. It could have vulnerabilities, and time to time they do have vulnerabilities that your home router in itself is actually vulnerable to these threats. So that is where the companies and at least on your personal level, it can affect you.
True.
I live in rural Trinidad. It's just me. I don't have any secrets. Why should I feel vulnerable?
Well, what I could say is that even though you're living in a rural area by yourself, you still need somebody to do something for you, or you need to do something for someone. The government is pushing to have the platforms that we interact with digitized. We are going in that direction. And even you who are in your rural area, in order to get a birth certificate, you are going to have to access the internet at some point in time. In order to get your license now, you have to make an appointment online. So even if you're in rural, you are going to be
Global.
You are global. So what we are saying is it's everybody's responsibility now. It is no longer I'm by myself. It's everybody's responsibility to get involved. Even the farmer, the guy who is picking the tomatoes, he has a responsibility. And the guy who's working in the bank, who's working at his desk, I was listening to Angus, and what he was talking about there. We even have in the we have reports coming into us where persons are calling you and telling you they are working at the cyber and social media unit. That's where it's reached now. Right now we have been investigating for since last year into this year. We have been investigating a particular gentleman. He is calling persons, telling them he's Sergeant Lewis and Sergeant Hamilton of the cyber and social media unit, and your accounts have been breached, and send your passwords so we could track and all these things. And I was so glad that I could come on today to let the public know that is not our standards at all. You do not give your passwords, WhatsApps, and these other items across. People will infiltrate and get your contact list and go after everybody in your contact list, and which is happening. However, we have caught him, and he is now facing 14 charges before the court, right? And he's on bail, and we are monitoring certain things, but still he's operating, and we are saying to the public, hey, do your cybersecurity policy at your home, put it in place. You don't be discussing your personal information with somebody who you never saw, never spoke to, and that now comes where you have to make a report in relation to this when all your information has been compromised. I even in listening to Angus also, the business email compromise.
Yeah. You would find a lot of that.
People are infiltrating inside that space, trying to intercept the emails between, like if you are working in a company, I can use a bank, and they are trying to get access to those emails. And it have instances where persons have infiltrated and tried to change accounts and all these kind of things. Business, email, compromise.
So a company, just to add, somebody would call a company and say that we changing our accounts receivable, or we changing the account that we receive payment on. They would inform the person that we need to change, look, this is a new account, you need to send the money or send your check to this account. And they would change the account and send the payment to that particular new account without verifying that this is a legitimate request or legitimate change. And when you look at, by the time they report it to us or they call us, is that they're trying to contact the person that they send the check to, number disappear, no answer. And talking about that type of money is hundreds of thousands of dollars going in that kind of direction. So there is a cost to these things if you're not aware of what you need to do to protect yourself. A company is supposed to have set policies and procedures if you need to make a change, need to do anything. Where it comes to, especially with online transactions, you need to really have a set procedure within your business so that everybody understands that, so that you would not now make that type of decision to just change and give away your information. And based on even something that Daniel was saying quickly, when Sergeant Lewis or Sergeant Hamilton calls, he asks you to change your password with him on the phone. So he would, while he's on the phone with you, talking to you, he would say, I need something happen. We're looking at, let's say, a suspect. And we know that he is trying to infiltrate your phone, and because of that, I need you to change your password. And the persons tend to change their password with Sergeant Hamilton on the phone. you should not change your password with anybody on the phone. That is one of the things you should not do. For anything that you have access to, you should not allow to walk through anybody, especially if it's somebody you don't know. Somebody you know, you might still take a chance, you're trying to do something, but especially if you do not know the person, do not change your password. Persons should not do that. Change their password, allow them to give out their information or give out their personal information, especially to persons that they don't know. So those are some of the things they have to be mindful of and ensure that they protect themselves. So.
And Wendell, from a company and individual level, we have something we call defense in depth, right? So I'll give you an example. So you live in rural, right? Okay. But the thing is, defense in depth is you put a defense and then you keep increasing the defense to things that are more important for you. So you live in rural, you put up a fence, okay, but you have your house, wall and so on. And I don't really want people to come in my yard, but if you come in my yard, it's not as bad as if you come in my house. But then some persons will be like, yeah, no, Wendell doesn't have a problem with that, but I am a little more uncomfortable, so I put in a guard dog. So at least the dog will tell me, hey, somebody there. But I'm going further, I want to put up cameras, right? But no, the place where you have like your precious jewels, your diamonds and so on, right? You will not just have it in your yard in a box, right? Yeah. So you will have it in a secret area within your house, probably within a safe. And it's the same thing we need to apply as companies, because some companies find that security measures are a bit expensive and so on. But we need to layer it with a defense in-depth strategy. So you have your endpoints, which are all your devices that are coming in, and you keep increasing your security as it goes to your servers and other places, even as an individual, with the example of Sergeant Hamilton calling in. I would have mentioned we need to have alphanumeric passwords as one precaution. But the defense in depth is when you change your password, to go deeper than that, you don't disclose it to anyone, because then you nullify the purpose of a password.
Yes.
And in other words, but there are things like two-layer authentication and so on, where you'll also get messages on your phone and things like that. But you don't want to risk anything in terms of giving that, because then you give the jewels in your safe, you put it in your yard. So we need to apply defense in that, both in company setting and as individuals.
We have a lot of passwords that we now have to deal with. Now, especially with the exponential growth in terms of the use of online services. So my bank account, password. If I have more than one bank, more than one password. I have a password for the email. I have a password for... How safe is it in terms of, and how should I approach the generation of these passwords? And how should I treat with several of them asking the same security question? I see Angus watching me. You saw it coming.
Yeah, I saw it coming. Yeah, so before you even go in that, I'll just segue into it briefly. So for persons online, you start to see of late now, this is one of the trends we seem to be seeing. When that now, some persons may think that this is nothing, for want of a better word. But you tend to see on Facebook especially questions asking you your first car, your first street, your mother's maiden name. When you think back to what those questions are, chances are your online banking, your online banking system generally tends to ask these questions. You may have some security questions, and those are some of the security questions. So I was on Facebook looking at this, so sometimes I go through that, and they ask the first car. So I put the answer. I said, but wait, but that's a security question. Delete the answer, take it off. I was like, no, this I'm not supposed to do this. Yeah. And I sent it out. It triggered something in my head. So I started to look at the questions and I started to realize, but wait, there's this trend to do that. That being said, phishing especially, that's another way to fish. Now, to crack passwords, you need to have a database, and that is some of the things that underline that people may not know. If you're trying to crack passwords, you need a base to draw from. Now, there's only so much words you may have, general words, but phrases, words, statements that pertain to you as a person, not everybody would know that. That could be, no, it could be, no, we're not guaranteed that it is, but it seems to be. So if you could now collect this information as it is an information, you can now have a wider database to use now to crack people accounts. If you know, if you're using software to infiltrate their systems, to hack their systems, you just need the password. That being said, password keepers, some people use password keepers to keep their password. They may use the random generator that Google may provide that online so that they could have a secure password. Having a secure password with your capital letters, sometimes asterisk or character, common letters, numbers, all of these in the context help to create a secure password. Sometimes passphrases would help. You have to use those things. So you may have to use these different mechanisms to have a secure password, but at the end of the day, you need to secure it for yourself and ensure that you don't give it away, to be honest with you. So you really have to devise a strategy that you're comfortable with. Some people like the password keepers. Some people could remember they use one password and they tend to use that all. Not the wisest thing and not the best thing. But at the end of the day, and I agree with you, there's a lot. There's a lot of passwords you have to remember for all the different things. And if you're like me, maybe something like close to 30 or 40 some things that I, different passwords, sometimes I forget them. So I understand the pain. But I think a password keeper tends to help, and it helps a lot of people to keep them secure.
Correct.
So that's something that they could do.
So we're segueing into the realm of solutions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah? Charles.
I mean, Angus said all what I will mention, you see mentioned in terms of the alphas and so on. First thing, we need to have strong passwords as the first thing, right? And then not to have the same password for all the 30 things we accessing. One of the other things we tend to do sometimes is, sometimes you go on a site and you say, hey, do you want me to save your password? I don't think that would be a good idea either, because remember, once persons get access to your machine, and they can access the cache and everything, and they're able to retrieve the data, essentially you give them your password, right? The password keepers are good options, but of course we need to keep it safe. So you still need to keep something safe, and the onus will be on us to ensure that, that we do that accordingly. And you see the thing that where Angus would have mentioned, things that appear to be games, and they may genuinely be games. And this is the thing, right? You may send something to me in social media or so on as a game, and we play it. Good. And you gathering information you don't have any ill intent. But for someday, someone hacked into your system and accessed all of my details. And now they're able to use that to access my bank account information and then what Daniel mentioned, ransomware now. So now I am like ransom, and I wasn't backing up. I'm not backing up my bank account. This is the bank and so on. So once they access that, they withdraw and they send money in different places. So
and then we say it's the bank's fault.
You then you have to blame the bank.
Yeah.
When is our responsibility. So I would urge us to stay away from those type of things, because I may be trusting you to keep all of my details as a social company, and sending information to you. It's like, sometimes we post up in social media, all right, I'm going on TV6 now for an interview. And I do it now, right? So then people are like, oh, well, then nobody home. So then, so we need to, and that is the physical sense, but the same thing applies in the virtual sense, in the online sense. So let's be safe, and really and truly is innate in humans to trust. Trust is a good thing, but we need to be aware of what we're trusting in and to exercise wisdom.
Daniel, let me piggyback from that. I know you're chomping at the
You know
bit.
what happened? Though, here, what happened, right? When he mentioned when Charles mentioned the situation where I am not at home, or I'm by TV6 today. Yeah. I just wanted to throw in a issue that took place, a case, and exactly what he just itemized for us happened right here in Trinidad. A situation with a girl, she she like to use social media and updating everybody, and I'm doing this. I'm by the. I went to Trotters today. I enjoyed this and whatever. And this girl, she wanted to. She got through with a scholarship and was traveling to go away, and she's telling everybody, "I'm leaving today. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this." I said, "Okay, that's nice to share." When she is on the flight heading to a particular country, I wouldn't call the country name, her mother receives a phone call, and the mother received a phone call telling her daughter fell ill on the plane.
Wow.
Right? And that she's now in the country here now, she does not have insurance, so if you could wire some money, to cover her medical expenses. The mother wired a considerable amount of money, and only to realize when the daughter reached to the country, she called and said, "Mommy, I've landed." She said, "How are you feeling?" She said, "Well, I'm okay. I heard you weren't well." I said, "No, Mom, I was just fine." And when they done check, money from the account done gone, everything is done gone. So I want to totally agree with Charles on that ability for us to think about protection from just not the perspective of, I just have to do it, but see it as something that you need to do. And a simple thing with the passwords too, just to train a 2 cents on that. I try my best to keep my passwords in one place. And now you have the ability now, I think even on the iPhone and all, you can lock your files with your passwords. Simple as that. And you have some form of protection with your passwords. I think sometimes people may sell it across as though it's very difficult. No, it's very simple. Sometimes that is even connected to your fingerprint, your biometric item. So that is also a way of getting it simple. I think the simpler makes it easier, but keep in the back of your mind, if I share my information, I am now opening up myself to attacks.
Well, I think you addressed the concern I was coming at you with. How concerned should we be as individuals about reconstructing our lives on an online platform? And I think the example that the case that you just put forward answers that succinctly. But from the organizational level, how does my company manage all these employees with different tendencies? What kind of infrastructure or protocol can I put in place?
Well, there are a couple of things, right? So there's what you call a BYOD policy, which is a bring your own device. So a lot of companies do that, and they have policies surrounding it. When I want to say, one of the things I think we need to do more as a country is investment. Invest. So sometimes we may have within our companies, we may or may not have anyone who is knowledgeable or involved enough around cybersecurity. We may have internal IT and so on, and we may lean heavily on, we deploy the system, and that is it. But we need to invest and see cybersecurity for what it's worth, rather than being reactive and, I need to spend $100,000 to ensure that this thing is safe, or the cameras around my house, the example I gave, right? Well, I don't think, why do I really need to put cameras around? I don't need a fence either, no dog or anything like that, and I don't have any burglar proof, but you don't know because you're thinking you have burglar proof, and there's no burglar proof. And it's only when someone walks into our house, take up the safe, it triggers something in us that we need to pay attention, some more attention, and invest properly with our security. And I think one of the things is we are not aware of what's happening right now in terms of is someone actually looking at your information, Wendell? And we may assume that it is not happening, and we may put lesser priority on it and not truly invest in ensuring that we are secure. So I would say what companies need to focus on is, yes, we're moving forward technology. That is where we're going. We're moving from inline to online. Great. But just as it is, we tend to exercise our personal security, and as an individual, we may not travel to certain places at certain hours and so on. We need to invest more in our cybersecurity solutions in terms of human resources as well as financial resources.
There's also a thought that came up when he mentioned that there's a story they talk about a company, don't call the name, invested in teaching their employees about not pushing in the flash drive, a strange flash drive into your system, what it could cause, and they spent millions in training because it was a big corporation. Monday morning, after the training was complete, people got certificates and whatnot. Monday morning, they did a test and placed flash drives throughout the corporation to see if what was taught. How long you all think it took for someone to take up the flash drive and throw it into a computer? How long?
2 hours.
2 minutes?
No time.
Seconds.
No time. Yeah.
A couple seconds.
Culture and mindset.
Culture and
Yeah, culture
mindset.
mindset.
And many times, we spoke about the investment side. That's from the technology standpoint, but there's also an investment in terms of culture, in how you get at the mindset of the people. Let them understand the importance of cybersecurity more from a cultural standpoint, because many times we focus on the technology, and every time you bring that word up, everybody closes in.
Yeah.
But when you take it from a cultural standpoint and showing this could affect this could affect, you like to go here, it could affect that. You like to go online, it could affect that. And you start to bring it from that context, you find people will more buy, because the process of culture change is a buy-in. And that is important when you're dealing with technology transformation. You need buy-in to what is coming in, and how you sell that information is very critical so persons can receive it. Yeah.
We are just about 4 minutes away, but I still want to have a quick discourse about the current trends in terms of what do we have out there in terms of us protecting ourselves and creating a cyber safe environment.
All right. Well, in terms of current trends, one of the things that we are seeing at the TTPS is that situation of phishing. You are seeing where persons are, being placed in some uncompromising situations because they are not taking the time to protect their digital infrastructure, as it were, at their home and their places of work. The other trend which we talked about earlier on is that area of ransomware. We know that persons are concerned about it, but they are not aware of how in-depth it is in Trinidad and Tobago, and they need to be aware of that. Ransomware is real. It's coming down to the personal level. Put your house in order in terms of how you share information. I gave you all the example as it relates to Sergeant Hamilton, whoever he is.
Yes.
And that's an issue that is on the rise. Another trend that is coming, especially among the young people. You have a situation where, remember, they are online a lot with the classes and we would have mentioned earlier, well, not today, in other lectures, we would have talked about Zoom bombing and all these items that are coming, and you get to realize it started with someone giving out the link, someone giving out the information. So these are some of the items that are circulating that could affect us as a society. And I think if we start to look at cybersecurity anew, we'll start to do the necessary steps to mitigate those circumstances.
Charles, what's the future?
Well, the Ministry of Digital Transformation and iGovTT, we are working strong and with a dedicated focus on bringing services to the citizens. But in doing that, we are fully aware of the mitigation and the strategies that we have to put in place. We're working with the UK in terms of identifying assets we need to improve, and strongly with TTC CERT to ensure that at the enterprise level, we address security items. And at the individual level to make persons aware of paying attention to their responsibility with regard to cybersecurity.
Angus?
So going after my compadres here, yes, some of the trends we would see, those are the ransomware, the phishing emails. We would see trends in the context of configuration management in terms of organizations ensuring that they need to ensure that they have proper configurations, manage updates, updating the systems, updating the equipment. Social media for the individual, understanding that we've seen a lot of things happening with social media, wherein that people threatening people a little bit more, have a little more cases, harassment, people being, the information being compromised in essence, where people saying their emails being taken over, their WhatsApp being taken over. Those are things that you're seeing in the environment. They're actually causing a lot of problems, and again, people need awareness is the key. Some of the things you're doing, you need awareness so that people would now know what to do and protect themselves. As Charles said, we have a role to play, and we are playing a role in the context of the government's digital transformation drive. We provide significant input into applications that they do digital payments, doing assessments, ensuring that systems are secure. I mean, with the resources that we have, we try our best to do that. One of the things I would say, though, that from a personal perspective and from the company perspective, you really need a plan. You need to strategize, you need to have a strategy. Understand what you need to do. Okay, I need a strategy. I have to understand my risk. We have to identify the risks that we have. We have to look at the things I need to protect. What do I protect? What is valuable to me as a person? What is valuable to me as a company? Once we identify that we have something to protect, we now go about developing that plan in order to protect it. From a company perspective, you would put the necessary things in place, look at the threats that would affect me as my company, because the threats would affect you differently to Daniel, to Charles, to the individual out there. Everybody have threats that would have impact upon them a little bit differently, which means they have to now get strategies to deal with it that would suit them, the company, so that at the end of the day, it will be effective. If you do not take that approach holistically, and as Charles said, you really need to plan around what you need to do so that to give that focus and put cybersecurity where it's supposed to be, at the forefront of everything that we do going forward in this digital age. We really need to look at it from that perspective.
And I think, Charles, you have, throughout this discourse, you have brought that analogy between the real and the virtual, and the movement from in-person to online. So at this point, my friends, this is where we have to pull the curtains on this edition of TATT's ICT Open Forum. On behalf of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, I would like to thank not both, but Angus, Charles, and Daniel, all the three gentlemen, for their contribution. We'd like to thank you, our viewing public, for joining us this evening. We also like to thank the kind folks here at TV6. You may not see the team behind the cameras, but they're all masked up and keeping us safe, and we thank them for hosting us here this evening. I am Wendell Atian, and I urge you, visit the Telecoms Authority's website, get the information, keep the discourse going as we strive to create a cyber-safe Trinidad and Tobago. I am Wendell Atian. Good evening.